Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to another Sikh Spectrum. And today it gives me great pleasure to have an interview with Rajinder Singh Tattal, who's an artist, a young boy, I think, who's come into this field recently. So we'll talk about his life and what's made him do these fascinating drawings, and they're all pencil drawings. So it's not that the Sikh channel cameras are not in color, but all the paintings, all the drawings are in black and white. So, Rajinder, so tell me, before we even start the interview, we were just hanging up your drawings and so on, and I'm quite fascinated by what you've produced in such a short time, and we'll talk about all your pictures. They're not pictures, they're drawings, aren't they? Which you had corrected me. So let me start by asking you to give us a short profile about yourself.
Right, my full name is Rajinder Singh Tattal, but my professional name, I go by Raj Singh Tattal, the Pentacularartist. The Pentacularartist is a pseudonym, and I've used it so that, well, if you call yourself the Pentacular, you better be good. So it gave me a bit of pressure, and the fact that it's got a pen in the front, and I'm a pencil artist. I've got a degree in product design, and I graduated in 1999. And I worked in various different fields for quite a few years. I was a kitchen designer for 4 or 5 years. But I didn't draw from 2001 until 2012. So I had this kind of period of not really fulfilling what I wanted to do. But when I was younger, I was obsessed with art. I mean, literally, it was like all I did all day. And so from a very young age, I became very advanced. And by the time I hit 15, I managed to get my comic published in the Eastern Line newspapers. And I was still at school, going in uniforms to the place. So when I'm very interested in a particular thing that I love, I go full force and nothing else is going to get in the way. And so from that, I then kind of didn't really like comic books too much. So I went into the art field, and then I'd done some of A levels. Then I went into product design, which is something that I love. But unfortunately, when I graduated, things were very tough in terms of getting work in that field. So I was unemployed for a chunk, and then I went into kitchen design and got stuck in there. But in 2012, I then was made redundant, which was the best thing that ever happened to me, to be honest with you, because I was forced to sit at home in my room, kind of contemplating what am I going to do for the rest of my life, not realising I had these still there because I thought I couldn't draw. My mind kind of played tricks with me, and I was so insecure about my artwork. So in 2012, November, I got diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, which is a form of autism. And the reason why that's so significant is because prior to that, I never really understood why I was the way I was. I'm so intense when I start something, and it will become all-consuming, and I'm very reclusive, which for art is brilliant. So I use it, and I want to show it as a positive, that you can use something that can be seen as a negative for a long time, and it was for me a negative, and now I've turned that on its head, and I'm using it to do what most people can't do, which is to sit down in 40, 50 hours and just draw and try and capture what other people try and capture in a photograph.
Okay, so you said that you've been diagnosed as having autism.
Yeah.
That wasn't diagnosed when you were a young boy?
I mean, it's nothing to do with any kind of neglect on anyone's part. During the 1970s, 80s and 90s, there was not much known about autism. So it was only in 1994 that it was actually officially recognised. By that point, I'd gone through the educational system. And if I was actually younger, like if I was actually going through school now, they would have recognised it, because I left school with 1 GCSE in art, and I didn't bother to turn up to any other lessons. So I was so obsessed with that. But I went back and had to redo the lessons anyway. So it's just a matter of me being open now with you and telling people I don't want to. I want to save some of the youngsters who might go through all the pain and anguish that I went through, not knowing why I am the way I am. So talking to you now and explaining that not everybody who's on the autistic spectrum looks like Rain Man, or there's not a particular kind of stereotype of what that person looks like or what they are.
Right. But when you were young then, your parents must have found you odd, like Meldani Resta Daranal, or doesn't talk to people. Was that a common complaint?
I mean, I had a lot of brothers and sisters. So I've got 4 sisters, 1 brother, big family. So I was talking, but I was only talking to my brothers and sisters.
Right.
So what would happen, we'd have relatives around, and I just didn't really know them. It wasn't really, everyone just assumed Raj is shy. And then when you're drawing, it kind of takes you out of the world anyway. People leave you alone. when you're sitting there drawing. So they're always drawing, you know, leave them alone. So over the years, only when I started hitting like 16, 17, 18, that I started realising that, oh, it's not something I'm going to grow out of. It's getting worse. And as I started growing up, and then I kind of resorted to stuff that a lot of people might resort to, which is, you know, intoxication to get you through difficult times. And so I lived a bit of life through that. I don't drink anymore because I know I'm the way I am for a particular reason. All I do is just be open with people, and that kind of alleviates my stress and nervousness. So the alcohol is completely banished from my system for the last 3 years.
So you're a teetotaler, which is
Teetotal,
good.
yeah,
There's no, that's not a crime to be a teetotaler.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question about your early, you know, comic pictures that you did. And I was quite fascinated. You'd actually done the Rajman, which was like a comic that you must have. Did this get published? Not
that particular one because it's a bit violent.
Right.
But it was what got my drawings published, because what happened was I was still at school and I was doing. I always wanted to do a Sikh superhero because whenever you look, I loved comic books and there was never any Sikh or Asian superheroes. So from that particular drawing, I sent a copy to Eastern Eye and they thought I was a grown man, but I was actually a schoolboy. You know, the drawings were so advanced, so they told me to come in, and when I come in with my school uniform, they're like, so I didn't have to dumb it down, not dumb it down, but kind of make it more friendly by changing the characters a bit more kind of, you know, for children's taste. And so the character was based what I wanted to be like, which was, my name is Rajinder, so I called him Rajman. His girlfriend was called Pinky. And so, you know, the only thing was, like I said to you before, that I had a tendency when I was younger to have all the good guys as Sikhs, but the bad guys' names were like Mr. Patel, Dr. Patel, Mr. Crusher Khan. Right. And so it started to get the backs up of Eastern Eye because I thought they started thinking that I was like promoting Sikhs rather than the comic of Asians. But so it ended abruptly after that, unfortunately.
I mean, there's so much detail even then.
Yeah.
I think it's fascinating that you've got a guy with a turban who's like the hero.
I'm actually redrawing him for my Sikh art exhibition. I want to bring him up to date and make him look like a real person.
Okay.
Because at the moment he's still kind of a two-dimensional character on my paper.
No, that's great. So, I mean, that you probably couldn't do it today by having, you know, the villain as being Mr. Khan constantly or Mr. Patel.
I still would, to be honest with you. I'm not going to lie. It's nothing to do with that, but I can't envisage myself making those people with the bad characters. Whether they're bad or not, I'm not going to put that in print.
Right. Yes. Okay, let's talk about some of your drawings, especially these three that we've picked out of the numerous ones that you'd bought in.
Yeah.
And I mean, the most obvious thing that you see with the drawings is the sort of detail that you have. So when you take a picture that you see, for example, of Guru Singh here, and then you've gone into details of how the beard is coming out, how the tir are standing at the back, and so how do you come to that conclusion? Because you've given it some life where maybe I wouldn't think that you would, you know, sort of draw on that.
Yeah, I mean, I studied a previous artist and I love their work, but the limitations of what you can do with paint and what you can do with certain mediums have kind of not stagnated those particular drawings, but you'll see they're very stuck in their own particular time frame. So for me, whenever I start drawing, I really want to encapsulate what that character is, try and make them real. I want them to almost pop out the page. And so the only way you can do that, the more detail you put in, the more realism you get. So for me, I'm only at 65% of where I want to be, and I'll come back and I'll keep on showing people how much I've improved. And for my aim, which isn't an aim, it's actually going to happen, is to be a photorealist or a hyper-realist artist where my drawings will look just like photographs. And that's my aim. It's what I live and breathe for, and I want to get there within 2 years. So I will be redrawing a lot of my drawings, bigger scale, more complicated. And so for me, like I said, to get realism, you need detail.
But how long does it take to make one of these then? How long did it take to make Dalip Singh?
Around 45 hours. But I'm very rigid in the way I draw. I always draw only one drawing at a time. When I start a drawing, I finish it. And I always finish them in 4 to 5 days, no matter what happens. It doesn't matter if it's 60 hours, 80 hours, I'll still finish it within 4 to 5 days. I have a very kind of strict time scale. I have the drawings. In fact, my room is like a museum to artwork. I have no wallpaper. You've seen how many drawings I got. I have 50 at home, and my walls are plastered with artwork instead of my wallpaper, and that inspires me to push myself and just draw as much as I can, because I want the whole ceiling to have artwork on there as well, hopefully one day.
Okay, so there's one part where you are drawing Sikhs, for
Yeah.
example, even with some people from the army that we've had here.
Yeah.
And then there's another part to you where you're drawing, for example, people maybe who are, I saw some pictures of war,
Yeah.
some astronaut pictures,
Yeah.
and especially SpiderMan.
Yeah.
So how do you sort of decide which one you're going to draw? Is it your mood, or does someone come up to you and say, "Sadly, our photo bade"?
No, I mean, what it is, I don't, like I said, I don't want to be known as a Sikh artist. I want to be an artist who happens to be Sikh.
Yeah.
So for me to do that, you've got to draw everything. You can't limit yourself. In fact, just drawing beards, turbans and stuff only limits yourself to a particular skill set. Now, drawing somebody like that is very different from drawing somebody who's with a pagan and dari. So it also teaches me particular skills.
That particular drawing there looks like a picture to me. So where did you get that particular drawing from?
I found the original on the website, and for me, I picked that one for a specific reason, which was to try and create a photorealistic drawing as close as I could. And I knew from that particular pose I could do it with this one, so it was more of a practice drawing. But it turned out to be one of my favourites afterwards. I was only practicing at the time to see how can I push myself to another limit, and that allowed me to do it.
Is it because on his face he's got lots of, character lines, and that sort of gives you detail rather than having it all plain?
Perfect. You know what you're talking about. This is one thing I've tried to explain to people. People start saying to me, well, it must be harder drawing an old person. No, the easiest thing to draw is that old person.
Right.
What is hard to draw is a young person, because you've got nothing to work with in terms of the skin tone. The more kind of marks and wrinkles I can do, the easier it is for me as an artist to play around with that. So you've hit the nail on the head on that. That's why I chose it.
It's striking, but that's the first thing that when I looked at it, I thought to myself, it looks like a picture, until you told me, no, that's a drawing you've done. Do you do any drawings that are imaginative rather than doing comics?
Yeah, I mean, the one of Guru Singh's youngest children is completely from my head.
Really,
So,
this one?
Yeah, so that's a complete original.
Okay, so that you haven't taken from any drawing?
No.
So how did you decide to draw their faces like that? Because the eyes give it away, by the way.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the things was I was very detached from Sikhi for a long time, and I'm only reintegrating into that particular, back into my culture. So I've read the stories from a fresh eyes. Last time I was told a story when I was younger, so I read the stories, and what really struck me every time I read the story from whatever perspective was the relationship between the brothers, how they supported each other, especially the older brother with the younger brother. So when I started drawing, I researched other artwork, and all of them had their arms up in the air, which is beautiful, but it'd been done. And I want to push art forwards in the Sikh community. And so what I wanted to go from that was to show the love between the brothers. And how do you show that? You show them hugging, or you show them together. And it's not supposed to be a literal interpretation of what happened on the day. It's supposed to be encapsulating everything.
Right. This drawing, I would not have recognized who this person is until you told me. Because, but then there is a reason why you've drawn him this way.
Yeah, I mean, this is an original as well. The reason I drew Banda Singh Bahadur this way, once again, I read the stories with fresh eyes. And one of the things that every story said was that he was a master bowman. Whenever you start, Banda Singh Bahadur was a master bowman, and he used to hunt. Yeah, and so what I found out when I started looking into interpretation of, no one had a bow. And what would a bowman do? He'd be firing the bow. So that's why I started that drawing with that in mind. I wanted to show what he was best at doing. And so I chose that particular angle to go with. And the same with my Baggo as well.
Yes, I mean, this particular drawing of my Baggo, I mean, she's obviously, I've not seen a drawing like this either. So this is one that you've...
Yeah, it's
your imagination, is it?
Yeah.
So why did you draw her like this then?
Well, once again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but read the story, and once again from fresh eyes, one of the things that was very, very striking was that Guru Gobind Singh Ji found her when she was injured, or she was injured on the battlefield, and she was the only one that survived. But every single drawing I saw was very sanitized, meaning that they were pristine, and like she just walked out of a modeling contract.
Yes.
Whereas what I wanted to show was the end of that battle. She's going to be injured.
Okay, now do you think that's your Asperger's picking up things like she was injured, he's a bowman?
Yeah, I'd pick it up. Yeah, It is, because I go on the finer details.
Yes, because everyone's used to having pictures that are really well done and they're clean, as if they're going to some ball or some.
Yeah, I mean, I've had to refrain myself from not going crazy, because my mum's told me, don't do this. If I had my way with Guru Gobind Singh Ji's youngest children, I would have made that more brutal.
Right.
I would have made it a lot more brutal. The kapade would not be the way they are. But I'm glad I took my mum's advice, because I think it's supposed to show the innocence. So originally I was planning on doing it so they were kind of injured.
Right,
and the kapade were torn, so they'd almost been tortured.
Right.
So yeah, I can see what you're saying from that angle.
This picture of Princess Katherine Dalip Singh.
Yeah.
Now, this is the one of the daughters of Maharaja Dalip Singh.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, you must have taken this from some catalogue or some book.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I drew this particular photo, I'd never heard of her. And so when I'd drawn Maharaja Dalip Singh a couple of weeks before, I'd had my first exhibition, his portrait was up, and a Jewish gentleman turned up. And he was like, oh, my family was saved by Sikhs in World War II, Nazi Germany. So I was like, who? He said, oh, a lady called Princess Katherine Dalip Singh. So I nearly fell off my chair when he said it, because I thought someone was pranking me. And I was like, I just drew Maharaja Dalip Singh. And so it's been verified by Peter Bantz's book on Maharaja Dalip Singh. And what happened was that she was in Nazi Germany in 1939, and the Jews were being persecuted. She met these two Jewish couple, which happens to be that guy's grandparents, in a doctor's surgery. And she gave them safe passage to England. And what I loved about that story was that it just showed you what Sikhs are about. She knew nothing about them, she didn't know them, and their lineage, in terms of their line of his children and their children, owe so much to her. Even if you save one person, yeah, that's all you need to do. And she saved two people in their whole line, but no one's heard of her. So this is why I want to kind of teach people about her history as well.
I mean, I think it's interesting that you mention Peter Bantz's book, because that book has very early pictures of the 150-year since Sikhs have been here, of pictures of Maharaja Dalip Singh's family. And I don't think most people realise that even some of the other daughters were fighting for women's rights in the early days.
Suffragettes.
That's right, and you see pictures of them in black and white. And so that's why it fascinated me that you had drawn that one as well. So what's your, you know, have you got some exhibitions lined up this year? Because it would be a shame to have this art in your room, especially on your wall. So what's your intention to show the outside world about this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm ready to show the outside world now. I practiced for 14, 15 months. And I always believe you don't show your work until you're up to a particular standard. It's like you've got one chance. And so people have told me for months, show. So I had my first exhibition in April. I've got a mainstream exhibition, which is for my, I don't want to say the word God artwork, but mainstream artwork, because I want to hit both fields of the art world. And that's going to be in August, between August the 7th until September the 7th, and that's running for a month in Leytonstone. And then after that, I've got my Sikh art exhibition, which is in November. And that's going to be also aimed towards the main art field as well, because I don't want to alienate people. I want people to walk in and go through a journey. So I've separated into kind of 3 separate sections: religious, history, culture. So my mum's dealing with the religion and history, and I draw what she wants. On the cultural side, I'm then taking particular individuals that I think culturally have influenced the Sikhs in this country specifically.
So have you, are you going to put all of your art up or not? Because there was one particular drawing that you didn't want me to show anyone, which was of Maharaja Ranjit Singh, which I thought was excellent, but you said, no, it's not very good, I'm not very happy with it.
I'm very hard on myself. In fact, I'm not happy with any of my drawings, and I never will be, because I always know you can do better. And with the day that you don't think that, you might as well give up. If I don't look at my if I take a look at my drawing, I always say that once you start believing your own hype, you're going to be stagnating in that thing. So I'm so extremely hard on myself. Unless it's perfect, and I've got no perfect drawings, I'm not going to be happy with it.
Okay, would you not think of putting colour into any of your drawings?
I was really good at colour pencils when I was younger. So that was actually what I used to specialise in, and markers as well. So I could, but I find colours very, I don't want to say the word boring, but easy as well. Because if I want to make yellow, I just put yellow. Whereas with me, when you want to portray a particular colour, to do that in the black and white, and get that particular tone, it has to be massive. I like detail. The variation that you need between making something look yellow and making it look an off yellow in black and white is very difficult.
So tell me something. It's not that you don't wear colour, but I know you're dressed in all black today.
Yeah.
So You don't
it could
dress
be,
black
yeah.
all the time?
Yeah, I do like black and white photography. I like wearing black and white. But so yeah, it might be a running theme through me, I think.
Okay, so tell me something about when you're not doing art.
Yeah.
Do you get involved in anything else? Like, for example, the local Gurudwara. You mentioned you live in Leighton. So do you have any links with the local Gurudwara?
No, I mean, this is one of the reasons I've come on the Sikh channel. I have to admit, I think it's definitely to do with my Asperger's syndrome. I don't really socialise. I haven't been to a wedding since 1998, which is my brother's. I haven't been to a wedding party since like 2003, 2004. I've got no friends, which I like now because it allows me to do what I've got to do. So I found as the older I've got, the less company I need. And so if I was to spend my time completely alone, I think I'd be in bliss. But unfortunately, or fortunately, you've got to reach out. So this is why I'm trying to, I've set up a group called The Collective. And you can see the name here, and it's with a K, with a Kanda. And the point of that group is, one, to get me into the Gurudwara, because it allows me, what we're going to try and do is 3 artists. One's called Rajman Singh, amazing artist, Jaglal, who's already had his comics published. And what we're going to do as a trio at the minute is to approach Gurudwara and say, look, just like we put this up here, so simply, it took us 5 minutes. We want to have a wall in the Gurudwara for a day. We'll stand there and we just want our artwork up. And so for me, that's a way of me getting in the Gurudwara, because I feel most comfortable when I'm at my strongest. And that's when I've got my artwork with me. So good.
So there's 3 of you. You only mentioned one person of the. Who's the third person?
It's myself, Rajman Singh.
Yes.
Another guy called Jaglal.
Right. And do you all paint or draw?
Jaglal does paintings plus comic art.
Right.
So his stuff's really amazing. And Rajman Singh, he's going to be big. I keep on telling him, but he doesn't believe me. He needs a bit of a kick to push him. And I think he's coming in there next week. Incredible ink work that he does. So beautiful Sikh art. It's all Sikh art.
Okay.
Yeah, beautiful.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
And I think that, anything that promotes Sikhi and youngsters, and I like this attitude that, I'm an artist, I happen to be an artist, but a Sikh, rather than the other way around. I think that's a good way. I mean, I can already say to you that if you want to come to my local Gurudwara, we can definitely arrange something.
Oh yeah, that would
be
great.
And I think that would be a good start.
Yeah.
I would like to also record some of your exhibitions from the Sikh channel when you do them in the mainstream.
Yeah.
And whatever we can help you. So what would you want the Gurudwaras to do? I mean, how would they contact you if you want them to go around?
I mean, I think we're getting in contact with Havelock Road first in Southall.
Okay.
And the reason we're doing that particular Gurudwara because Rajman Singh is from Southall, originally from Wolverhampton. So we're in talks with them. And so any Gurudwara within London at the moment, just because transport and stuff's a bit difficult taking all your drawings. So within London, if anyone wants us to do a little exhibition during a program, and all we need is one wall, and your time, and everything else will be done through us, just contact me on my Facebook page, which is Raj Singh Tattal, and you can get me on there, and then we'll try and arrange something. And I do want to say one thing. The reason that we're doing it as well, we want to show the legitimacy of art as a legitimate career and something that you can be proud of, and something that, what I can do here, you can't do it in any other means.
I think it's great. I'll be honest with you. I've always said this when I've gone to schools, that I think sometimes we push our children too much to becoming doctors. Which is probably what your parents said to you when you were young. They go, the doctor bana ja. So I think this type of art, if you've got a talent for it, like which you obviously have. By the way, Havelock Road is the perfect place to start. That particular Gurudwara committee, is very, very helpful when it comes to these types of things and the youth. So next time when you go there, I'll come with you to promote this idea. So because I know them really well, and they support the Sikh channel. So no, I wanted to. We've only got a minute left, as I keep getting signs from over there. So is there anything else that you'd like to tell the viewers?
If you've got any budding artists in the family, and they're sitting there, and you're thinking, what are they going to do with their lives? The way art is now, you can literally have a really good career just sitting from your own little kind of secluded bubble, or you can be out there and exhibiting all over the place. You can have a legitimate career from it now. So don't tell them to stop. Let them get out their system, and hopefully one day they'll be sitting here showing their artwork as well. Not competition with me, hopefully.
Well, that's great. So I want to thank Rajinder for coming to the studio and sharing his art with us. And I hope that the Sikh Spectrum viewers watching this would find this useful. I request कि ਜਿਹੜੇ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰਬੰਧਕ ਕਮੇਟੀਆਂ ਆ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਸਾਥ ਦੇਣ ਤੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਐਗਜ਼ੀਬਿਸ਼ਨ ਆਪਣੇ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਲਾਉਣ to tell all the other youngsters that we can't all be professional in terms of becoming doctors and pharmacists and so on. And there's a whole missing, I think, of Sikh young people coming into this type of field.
Yeah, yeah.
So I want to thank you, Rajinder, for coming into the studio. So let's do Fateh together. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.